Support.
The maestro, please.
End of the month, which means it's time to go over another pop song. Today we'll be going over Kill Bill by SZA.
SZA.
Solana Imani Rowe, better known as SZA, is an American singer-songwriter coming out of St. Louis, Missouri in the early 2010s. One of her first big hits was a collaborative effort coming from the Black Panther Marvel movie. Given she was plenty able to get other pop hits outside of movies, such as
Background.
Kill Bill, taking its name from the movie with the same name, was released as a single on January 10th, 2023. Given it actually charted before its official release back on December 24th of 2022 at number 3. It's maintained its position, and as of the beginning of March, it is at number 2. The reason it was able to chart before its actual release as a single is because it is off of SZA's second studio album, SOS, which was released on December 9th of 2022. Kill Bill is actually the 5th single off this album, the first 4 in order of release being
Good days, always in. And if you wonder if I hate you, I do. Blood stain on my shirt, new bitch on my nerves. Old nigga got curved, going back.
And finally,
Nobody gets me, you do.
oddly enough, it was also released in a Kill Bill bundle on January 13th, 2023. This bundle included the actual song as well as its instrumental and isolated vocals, or a cappella. In addition, due to the TikTok trend, a sped up version of it was on this bundle as well.
I might kill my ex, not the best idea.
If that wasn't enough, on January 24th, an acoustic version of the song was released.
I might kill my ex, not the best idea.
Besides SZA working on this song, we also have Carter Lang and Rob Bissell. Not the first time we're mentioning Carter Lang. We talked about him originally back when we did
You're the sunflower. You're the sunflower.
Since then, he's gotten a couple more hits under his belt, such as
You made it seem so easy, seem so easy.
and
Can you kiss me more? We're so young, boy, we ain't got the.
next we have Rob Bissell, who has worked as a recording engineer or assistant engineer on numerous tracks, especially with his work alongside legendary producer Rick Rubin. However, this is his first time getting a pop song credit doing production or songwriting. Kill Bill is released both by Top Dog and RCA.
Form.
Kill Bill is listed both as a pop and R&B song, is just over 2.5 minutes long, is an A-flat major, although you could argue for B-flat Dorian, and is 89 beats per minute. After the 4-bar intro, we have a very short first verse,
I'm still a fan, even though
followed by the first pre-chorus,
I'm so much older. I'm so much.
which then leads to the chorus.
I might kill my.
This is then followed by the much longer second verse,
I get the sense that it's a long.
second pre-chorus, and then second chorus.
Not the best idea.
We then get a bridge,
I did it all for love. I did it all.
before finally going to the third chorus,
Killed his girlfriend next out. I get.
which ultimately ends the song.
Rather be in hell than alone.
Melotron.
For those that don't know what a Melotron is, it's an old sampler. It's a keyboard instrument which records a sound and then transposes it for every note. The sound transposed in this case is a flute. There are 2 distinct voices, and when combined actually outline our overall harmony, going B-flat minor 9, E-flat dominant 7, A-flat major 9, and F dominant 7 with an added flat 9. That doesn't ever really change much, although later in the song it repeats all of this an octave lower. That being said, as we get to the end of the song, it does truncate that last bar, but it has an additional voice added over the top of it.
synth.
Later on, we get some synths added. The bottom one is simply an arpeggiator outlining that formal harmony we talked about before, only difference being is that F dominant 7 flat 9 is now over G flat, but we have these block chords as well, going B flat minor 7 over D flat, E flat dominant 7 over G, A flat major 7 over C, and F dominant 7 over A. You'll notice that they are really just simplified versions of the chords that were played earlier. The one other additional synth we have almost sounds like a church organ. For these first 3 bars, that is just the Melotron part, but on that 4th bar, we have this F sus4 chord, which resolves to just an F major chord.
Bass.
The bass in this song, being played by an actual bass guitar, starts off on that B flat and then hits it again before sliding all the way down to E flat, working its way up to G, working its way up to A flat, dropping back down to that F, going back up to the A flat, and then hitting that C at the end. The second phrase pretty much repeats that exactly, except for the last bar where it goes A flat, C, E flat, and then G flat with that quick hit on the F before, actually outlining the entire F7 flat 9 chord minus the actual root F. The bass essentially repeats those 2 phrases throughout the rest of the song with some slight changes, like in this one, in the 3rd bar, instead of hitting that A flat and then just doing that A flat again on an offbeat 8th note, it actually has these 2 8th notes, going A flat down to G before getting back to the F. Or in this case, where it has that transitionary figure going from the 1st to the 2nd bar, and in the 3rd bar, it rearticulates that A flat a lot more. The last variation in the bass's part is here, where it plays basically what it did before, only an octave lower, and that first note is held out a little bit longer.
Guitar.
When we first hear the guitar come in, it actually has 2 different guitar parts playing. The bottom one is literally just what the bass is playing without that initial slide in the beginning, and the upper guitar voice is doing these arpeggiated chords, going F minor, E flat major, A flat major over E flat, and then F major. Note that the arpeggiated chords are the extremely simplified versions of what the overall harmony is, because the entirety of these simple chords are contained in the more complex chords. And again, you can see in the bottom line, it's just doing what the bass is doing, given it doesn't have that pickup note at the very end going from the F to the G flat, it's just the G flat. Moving on to more interesting guitar parts, later on in the song we actually have the guitar playing by itself. It's not much of a solo considering how simplistic it is, but it does have those lovely bends on the end of the 2nd bar and the end of the 3rd bar. Towards the end of the song, we have this 3rd guitar part doing these 8th note runs up and down throughout the entirety of it. This continues throughout the final section of the song, given we get a bit more interest with those triplet 16ths and those 2 16th 8th note figures before dropping out entirely.
Verse.
The first verse is actually only one phrase long, focusing on these sort of syncopated 16th note rhythms and very low in her range. The highest note she hits is an E flat, and the lowest note she hits is that low A flat below the staff.
I'm still a fan even though it's salty. Hate to see you with some other, but know you happy. Hate to see you happy if I'm not the one driving.
The twice as long second verse does get a bit more interesting. We have some added eighth notes, we have a bit more space between things, not as much 16th note syncopation, but we do have that melisma at the end on the word damn.
I get the sense that it's a lost cause. I get the sense that you might really love her. This text gonna be evidence. This text is evidence. I try to ration with you, no murder's a crime of passion, but damn.
As you can see though, still not really going much higher in her register. The highest note we had in this entire second verse was in the previous phrase on the beginning of the melisma for damn on F, and as you can see here, we're still hitting those low A flats quite often.
You was out of reach. You was at the farmer's market with your perfect peach. Now I'm in the basement, planning on my patient. Now you laying face down, got me singing over a beat.
Pre-chorus.
For the most part, the pre-chorus is just like the verses, really focusing around 16ths, although we do have some eighth notes and a different kind of syncopation on the back half of the pre-chorus. In terms of range, it's almost entirely the same. We don't go higher than that F, given now we do go all the way down to that E flat below the staff.
I'm so mature, I'm so mature, I'm so mature. It got me a therapist to tell me there's other men I ain't doing one night, I just want you. If I can't have you, no one should.
It's in the second pre-chorus where things get a bit more interesting because an entire doo-wop choir is added. 6 voices, I might add. And when you look at the overall harmonic structure, you get this B flat minor over F, this E flat major chord, which then has a G under the bass, and then you end on this lovely arpeggiated F dominant 7. Again, good to note that these are all just simplified chords from the actual overall harmonic structure.
I'm so mature, I'm so mature, I'm so mature. It got me a therapist to tell me there's other men I ain't doing one night, I just want you. If I can't have you, no one will.
Chorus.
When we get to the chorus, we finally get a bit more from SZA's range, going as high as that A flat on the staff, and going as low as that A natural below the staff. You'll notice we're also focused on a lot more simplistic rhythms, for the most part, eighth notes and quarters, minus the melisma at the end. The supporting vocals in the background, again done by SZA, are obviously a bit higher in her range. They go all the way to that C above the staff.
I might kill my ex, not the best idea. His new girlfriend's next, how I get here.
When we get to the second part of the chorus, the main vocals are still pretty much doing the same thing. The supporting vocals do a line that's a little bit different though, and they drop out for the back half.
I might kill my ex, I still love him though. Rather be in jail than alone.
The second chorus is pretty much the same, minus an additional line added over the top of everything that transitions from the previous section.
I might kill my ex, not the best idea. His new girlfriend's next, how'd I get here?
When we get to the final chorus, things change a little bit. Obviously, the words have changed, kind of painting a picture of what happened in the song now, and the additional vocals are now obviously just ad-libs. In addition, there's even a whoops underneath all of that.
I just killed my ex, not the best idea. Killed his girlfriend next, how'd I get here?
But again, despite the drastic change in tone, it is still pretty much the same.
I just killed my ex, I still love him though. Rather be in hell than alone.
Bridge.
In terms of range, the bridge actually sits in between the verse and the chorus. Not as low as the verse, not as high as the chorus. We do hit that low A flat sometimes, but we also go all the way up to that G on the staff. You'll also notice a lot more melismas here and a lot more space between the lines, in addition to the ad-libs over top of everything.
I did it all for love. I did it all on no drugs. I did all of this sober. I did it all for us.
The second part of the bridge in the main vocals essentially repeats what it just did, but the backup vocals now have harmonies, and there's that one line at the end which is good to pay attention to, especially in terms of the story of this song.
I did it all for love. I did all of this on no drugs. I did all of this sober. Don't you know I did it all for us?
overall a fairly smooth song with some lush harmonies, despite there not being many instruments in this. It's just the Melotron, drums, guitar, and bass guitar, but they managed to do so much with it. The same goes for SZA's vocals. All in all, not super complicated, especially considering some of the other songs we've looked at before, but SZA's melodies do keep us on listening, which very much helps considering the lyrics and topic of the song. Honestly, if you were to ask me who should take SZA's advice when it comes to dealing with breakups, well, in all honesty,
No one should have mine. I like it when it's not the best idea. His new girlfriend's next, how again.
you know, considering it was named after the movie, I'm surprised they didn't have any samples from this in the soundtrack, especially that one song.
Bang, bang, my baby.
No, that's just the Nancy Sinatra cover of the Cher song. I mean the other one. No, not that one either. That's just an excerpt from the theme from Ironside, which was done by Quincy Jones. That was another show entirely. Yeah, that one. It's actually called Twisted Nerve, and it was done by the film's composer, Bernard Herrmann. I think the whistle would have actually fit quite nicely in here.
Yeah, I like it when